Oh, hello! And a very warm welcome back, a very belated warm welcome back to The Library is Open. So I hope you've retained your library cards, my darlings. I know it's been a while since we've chatted. I apologise for that, but circumstances being what they are, it's just not been possible to kind of generate and upload, produce content, etc. But thank you to the people who messaged me to check in and say, you know, they missed the videos, which is lovely. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. There's just been a lot going on. I'm fine. It's been like a whirlwind. I don't know. I've been all over the show. I've been to Budapest. If you follow me on socials, you'll see more about that with work. My job's been quite intense, and I'm moving, or rather, I'm in the process of moving at the moment to a new place. So there's just been a lot going on, as I say. So that kind of explains the gap in videos. But without further ado, because normal service is now resumed, I know you'll want to know what I'm drinking, because I always have a tea or a bit of a brew, don't I, with these. So I'm drinking, it's in a special flask today, which I'll just show you. Isn't that pretty? So this is from Hungary, where I was for 3 weeks. It is a box one, but I just thought it was really lovely. And I quite like that thing they do, you know, where you can get like specific merchandise to each country or town, city, whatever that you're in. So I thought, well, that's nice. I've got a cup version as well, so that's good. But I'm drinking, so that's Hungarian, the container. Well, it's not, is it? It's, you know, it's Starbucks, PLC, Overlord, whatever. But I'm drinking from the fabulous Bird and Blend, this Wallace and Gromit tea called More Tea Gromit, which is lovely. So it's a collaboration with Aardman. It's not sponsored, by the way. I just really like Bird and Blend. And it's basically, it's a black tea, but it's also got desiccated coconut and freeze-dried cranberry in it, which I presume is to mimic cheese, maybe? Cranberry cheese? Whatever it is, anyway, it's delicious. It's really, really nice. So, lovely Bird and Blend are fantastic. I'll link them in the description below. But it has been a long time, as I say, and what I'm going to say is I don't want to commit to videos on a regular schedule, because I just don't know what that's going to look like over the next couple of months. But I did want to check in with you all and give you a little update. And I thought what would be really nice is, because I realised the other day, because I track my reading progress on both Goodreads and Storygraph. I know some people don't like Goodreads and so on and so forth, so by all means, the same information is on both. You can find me on both of those in the description below. Follow me should you so wish or be inclined. And I thought I just passed my 100th book of the year that I read this year, which is cool. I haven't put a target for this year or anything, because ultimately I'm reading for pleasure or work or something, but, you know, not to kind of just beat things or whatever. So, but anyway, I thought 100's a decent number, so I thought what I might do is just in this video have a look at my top 5 things that have, would I say they're my favourites of the year? I don't know. What I would say is that there are the books that have made me think most, or that have stayed with me, sort of thing, which, you know, is kind of a win regardless, isn't it? So I thought that might be quite interesting. So one of the things I read this year that I really, really liked was Olga Tokarczuk. I went to pronounce her surname then and was prepared and then tried to read it upside down. So wrong. But this is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. Tokarczuk, I think. My apologies if that's incorrect. This is the copy that I got when I was in New York at the start of the year, and I also watched the theatre adaptation of that by Complicité, a fantastic company, which was live streamed from the Lowry. And this is a book, and this won the Nobel Prize for Literature when it came out. It's a few years old now. It's a translated book, Polish originally, and it's about a woman who lives in this remote Polish village, and you know, she has sort of names for all her neighbours and so on and so forth, and she's kind of widely judged to be an eccentric. And then one day, one of her neighbours is found dead, and she sort of tries to unravel what happened by, you know, sort of investigating. So it kind of has some of the hallmarks of a kind of traditional crime novel. There's a slightly cosy setting, but it's not cosy crime. And it's not really traditional crime in that sense, because there's something more going on there in terms of, you know, sort of wider conversation about the planet, the environment, animals, so on and so forth. I'm not really doing this justice, but I think with a lot of books, sometimes it's really, really hard to sum up exactly what the plot is, because a lot of it is about the feeling, about the prose and so on and so forth. But I had a really, really interesting time with this, and as I said, the theatre adaptation is beautiful and very faithful to the book as well, which is surprising in some respects, because obviously they're two very different mediums. And also the Complicité production was, the central character was played by Catherine Hunter, who's an amazing physical performer. So what they chose to do with that was really, really different, and kind of confounded expectations, which, you know, all good art probably should, you know. So yeah, that was one of my biggies for this year. I'm still thinking about that now. And I think it raises a lot of interesting moral questions as well. I won't spoil that, but have a little read if you're interested, and let me know what you think. The second one, quite a different one, was our last book club pick, actually, for the Libraries Open Book Club. Details in the description if you ever do want to join. And this was a pick called True Crime Story by Joseph Knox, who is a... he's not based in Manchester anymore, I don't think, but he lived and worked a lot in Manchester. And he's written 3 other novels. The Aidan Waite series, which are quite kind of Manchester noir kind of thing, more akin to like thrillers and so on and so forth than traditional crime. But this one's really, really fascinating. So this is a kind of subversion of the traditional crime novel, whereby it's presented as interviews and evidence with the people that were involved or kind of tangentially related to the crime. But also Joseph Knox presents himself as a character within the novel. So he is kind of a writer who is communicating via email with this other writer, and he takes on the responsibility for going over the evidence that she's collected about this crime that's happened. But there's also something nefarious going on as well, and you don't know where his alliances or allegiances lie. And I think it just played really, really nicely with what would I call it? The kind of back and forth of what you expect. So it's kind of like that thriller thing where there's like a cliffhanger at the end of each thing that radically changes, and you're wondering where things are going. It's all based on the disappearance of a Zoe Nolan, who's a 19-year-old Manchester University student, and kind of what happened to her, where she went, what all the different theories are, who the suspects are, and then these 2 crime writers trying to track down what actually happened. But there are several points where you'll find yourself Googling, is this actually true? And I really love things that play with the genre in that way. I have a couple of gripes about it. I'm not thrilled about the ending, some of the choices, but, you know, we're all free to have our own opinions. But there's nothing kind of detrimental to the experience. It really got me turning the pages very, very quickly. The third one I'd like to talk about is one that I read really recently. I was in Cumbria, specifically Barrow, Inverness, the other week, and I took this along with me, and I thought, you know what, I've had hold of this for ages and just not got around to reading it. Obviously didn't forget it because it's bright yellow, but I thought I'll take this and I'll try and read it over the course of the time that I'm there, and I did. And this is Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, who wrote Babel, that I think I've mentioned on the channel before, that was really, really interesting. And this is fascinating as a kind of contemporary look at, so good, ownership and storytelling, and the kind of where we find ourselves morally and ethically, and issues of representation, and who gets to own story, and so on and so forth. So this is about a young writer called Junie, I believe is her name. June, but Junie. And she has a best friend called Athena, who she witnesses die. Quite a tragic circumstances. And she finds Athena's unfinished manuscript. So they're both writers, yeah, and Athena's been very successful. And then she kind of rewrites it, improves upon it, in quote marks, or at least reinterprets it, and then submits it as her own, and it's a huge smash, right? But then everything kind of snowballs from there, and someone knows what she did, and it's about how she tries to cover that up, and how she tries to, you know, enjoy this new success as a novelist while wondering if she's ever really earned it, and, you know, is it even her right to be telling these stories? It brings up a lot of stuff that is really prevalent now, where you'll notice a lot from like social media discourse and stuff like that. I'm not proffering an opinion, but because I think the conversation is really interesting around, you know, because you can kind of go, oh this, but oh this, but oh this, but oh this, and it's just a lot of really good, earthy, interesting, visceral stuff about who gets to tell what story, who has the right, when it gets complicated, and what do we do with those complications. Absolutely compelling. I read it with a sense of dread, though. It's one of them where it pulls you into its narrator's story, irrespective of whether you like the narrator or not, and you're sort of going, oh god, what next? Really one of those. So, you know, highly recommend that. Another one I loved this year was Enter Ghost by Isabella Hammad. Cornflakes there, bran flake I should say, on the cover. Not nice. This is I believe the second novel. Her debut novel was The Parisian, which I also read, but and respect a lot, but didn't have as much of a good time with. Good time is a weird term with, as I did this. But this is about an actor called Sonia who she has been away from sorry, brain moment there. Haifa, where her older sister lives, and she's teaching in Tel Aviv. So she has been in England following her acting career after a slightly disastrous affair with a director, and she returns to visit her sister, and she gets involved in this local production of Hamlet on the West Bank, with a mixed cast of Israeli and Palestinian actors. And it's kind of about how she and her family and the play and the actors and so on and so forth negotiate, you know, being in a highly charged kind of atmosphere, as we know, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and how, you know, what the play has to say to that, the original Hamlet, and how, you know, what the kind of ramifications of all those things are. And I'm not really doing this justice because it's very much a vibes novel in terms of the depth of the kind of characters' feelings and interactions. But I mean, I came to it as, you know, a theatre person, and obviously loving Hamlet, which I was directing at the time when I bought the book, and I thought this was absolutely stunning. Really, really interesting allusions around the idea of ghosts, which is obviously a big theme in Hamlet, and how that relates to, you know, sites of conflict and contestation and so on and so forth. But I just thought this was really, really beautiful, and very, very much enjoyed reading it. And finally, because I did say I'd just do 5, I want to pick up on this, which is in some ways similar, but not quite, to True Crime Story that I mentioned. This is the latest one I read. I believe this might be book 100. I could be wrong. This is The Appeal by Janice Hallett, which I read in like a day. It's that good. It's that compelling. Again, this is a kind of upending of the traditional crime novel, with which is set in this small town around a kind of main social family and an amateur dramatics society who are putting on a production of All My Sons by Arthur Miller, which is a great play, by the way. The main family, their granddaughter is diagnosed with a brain tumour, and they start up a kind of fundraising campaign to get her this experimental treatment from abroad, which is not available on the NHS here because it hasn't been all tested and everything like that. Juxtaposed with that, we have a character called Izzy, who's welcoming a new colleague at work called Sam, who has just come back from working for Doctors Without Borders, I think it's called, in abroad. And sorry, I'm trying to edit what I'm saying so I don't spoil it. But the whole thing is conducted in email exchanges and evidence. So at the start of the book, we meet these 2 law students who have been instructed by their kind of supervisor to review all the evidence because he believes that the wrong person is in prison for the crime that eventually happens because there's a murder. And they're kind of sifting over everything, so you get their text message back and forths as well and so forth as they're trying to figure out what happened. But it's just absolutely compelling. I can't do justice to the convolutions of the plot, and I mean that respectfully. I don't mean it's convoluted to the point where you can't understand. I mean, it's just so, again, similar to true crime story, it's wheels within wheels. There's accusations of fraud, there's, you know, there's subterfuges, there's hidden alliances, relationships, and so on and so forth, and you have to try and piece it all together before the end. Now, I never try and guess the end, I just enjoy and read, but if you did want to, you'll have a field day with this, because there's, as it says on the cover, 1 murder, 15 suspects. So it could be, you know, any number of variables, and I just thought it was absolutely fascinating. So there we go. There's my kind of top 5 that have got me thinking over the last couple of months. But it's really, really nice once I got talking again. It's lovely to be back, and I really enjoy talking to you. So check all the details below in the description for things that I've mentioned: Bird and Blend, the books, Storygraph, etc. You can also follow me on socials there. If you want the latest update on our book club, you can check the community tab where I always post what we're reading next. But in the meantime, my darlings, put your library card somewhere safe, and I will hopefully see you very, very soon. Mwah. Much love.